Carolina, Mr. Pittenger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Liu, good afternoon to you. Mr. Liu, on your last visit when you were here and I had occasion to talk with you, we discussed at some length information sharing between Homeland Security's Homeland Security's trade-based trade transparency units and also FinCEN's role in their sharing together and how important that was. And to the extent that they are sharing, in terms of related to trade-based money laundering, that we would be successful. When I asked this question to you about the sharing between Homeland Security and FinCEN, your response to me at that time was, quote, "I start out with a strong bias that we ought to work as one government and that we need to cooperate and collaborate. I start out sympathetic to this initiative." So that was your statement then. And then in response to my questions to you, we got a response back from your staff for the record that stated the following. Treasury and DHS are in regular contact regarding ways our two agencies can better inform our respective efforts to combat terrorist financing. We are confident that we can achieve this important goal through our ongoing strategic relationship, while at the same time maintaining our respective database autonomy. Mr. Liu, there seems to be a conflict in terms of perspective and philosophy of how they would work together in information sharing that's really so vital. If Homeland Security has certain data that we're not accessing at FinCEN, that certainly restricts your ability to be able to intercept the information we need. Could you kindly respond to this different viewpoint between your staff and yourself?
Well, I'm not sure that it's a different viewpoint. Our activities in tracking down terrorist financing depend on the constant flow of information from intelligence agencies and other partner agencies like DHS. And likewise, we provide enormous amounts of information on an appropriate basis back to them. The question of whether or not you get into
Are you willing to enter into an agreement with DHS in terms of information sharing?
Yeah, I'm not aware of a problem right now in terms of information sharing. What I do know is that full access to all of the database would put a lot of information that's not necessary into a place that it probably shouldn't be. And I think the question is, how do we make sure the right information is fully shared and we each protect systems where personal privacy is at issue for the other information as well. I'm happy to follow up. After you and I talked at the meeting, we talked in North Carolina as well about it. I have followed up with my staff and urged them to keep working on this. It has not been brought to my attention that there is a problem in terms of the flow of information, but if there's something specific that you're concerned about, I agree.
I think the word that struck to me was that there should be a sense of autonomy coming from your staff. That's directly opposite in terms of what I heard, and I just want to make sure that there is an ongoing effort to share this data. You have incredible access to data, and I'm familiar with the work that you have and what you contribute. And frankly, I think that we have a greater need for access with the private sector in their efforts to try to work along our side. But this access to data is a very critical component among agencies, among the private sector, and frankly with our allies around the world.
Yeah, I really do believe that the practices we have at Treasury lead the world in how to get the right information into the right hands. And we provide an enormous number of leads to the appropriate agencies.
Yes, sir.
You're asking about a querying of databases on a kind of real-time basis.
I need some follow-up on that, if you could. Two other questions quickly. FATF has an important role in terms of bringing its member countries, 34 countries, into those 4 regulatory compliances, but they're not an enforcer. No. What's your response of what we do with countries like Turkey, Kuwait, Qatar, who clearly have been complicit in terms of transferring financing and being accessible on that?
Look, we raise these issues very strongly in bilateral.
What tools do we really have? I've raised the issues too. I've been to those countries. They dodge every way they can. But what do we have?
I think we're making progress, though I think
it's a nice word, and I'm not trying to really cut you off, but I don't have much time. Reality is they are very aggressive in their efforts. They have been, and we really haven't done much, seen much cooperation from them in terms of not being complicit with the financing component. And then my last question deals with Ron and the banks that come under SWIFT authority. Do you believe that these banks are going to be able to access? I didn't get a clear answer from you that they can have access and work with American financial institutions.
Brief answer, please.
I think that what I said in the earlier response is that we will comply with the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action and lift the nuclear sanctions. We will keep other sanctions in place. Part of the agreement was to give Iran access to money that it has a right to. We will work on making that happen. It is not going to be our goal to block transactions that are legitimate under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, but we will enforce on other areas like terrorism and the like.
Thank you.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from